Good morning, good afternoon, Year 11. I am going to do some revision with you today on Unit 1. And Unit 1 was the unit that you did right at the very start of Year 10. And the topics in Unit 1 are business enterprise, entrepreneurship, risk and reward, and the dynamic nature of business. So for today, hopefully you've had a look at these questions. So what I'm going to do is just talk you through the questions and you can check to see if you've got the right answers, and I'll do some model answers with you as well. Okay. So first of all, question 1, quite an easy question, just for 1 mark, multiple choice. Which one of the following describes the role of an entrepreneur? Is A, being employed by a large organisation, B, a willingness to take risks, C, having sufficient money to start a new business, or D, being able to work alone? So the correct answer for this one is B, a willingness to take risks. Part of being an entrepreneur is to have that sort of personality whereby you are taking calculated risks, and calculated risk is a risk where you've looked at the advantages and the good things that could happen from taking that risk, and you've looked at the downside, the things that might go wrong from taking that risk as well. And that's a key term within Unit 1, calculated risks. So the answer for that is B. Okay, moving on to question 2. So question 2, explain one method a business could use to add value to its product. So here it's crucial really that you do just stick to one method. It is a 3-mark question, but you still just have to explain one method. The idea behind getting 3 marks in this answer is that you would identify the method and then you would explain it, because it is an explain question. Okay, and obviously in order to do this question you need to know what added value is. So very long time ago, back at the start of Year 10, you hopefully will have remembered looking at added value. So if I show you this slide, the definition of added value is the difference between the cost of making something and then the price that it is sold for. Notice that that's not the profit, it's just the amount of money that you've added on within that process. So a good example that's been given here is a cup of coffee. So it says an average takeaway coffee sells for £2.50, but the ingredients in the coffee are only 8p. But there are other hidden costs as well. So the coffee beans are only 8p, but then you've got the milk, you've got the sugar, you've got the cup itself, you've got the advertising for the brand, you've got the labour that goes into perhaps the rent of the restaurant or outlet that's selling the coffee. And so there are lots of hidden costs there. So the added value would be adding all of those costs up together and then looking at the selling price. That will give you the difference between those two, would give you the added value. So there are lots of ways that a business can add value to a product, and this is a really good slide because you could have picked any of the words in pink. So to identify just one way that a business can add value, if you, for example, would have gone for design, then you would have typed out something like this. So you could have said, you know, one way to add value is through the design of the product. So that would have got you just 1 mark, because you've identified the one way that you're going to talk about, the design of, sorry, spelling mistake. So yeah, you've identified design. To get the remaining 2 marks here, you need to explain what you mean by that. Okay, so one way to add value is through the design of the product. For example, The latest iPhone, sorry about the spelling, the latest iPhone may be considerably smaller or larger in some cases in design than the previous version. Okay, for example, the latest iPhone may be considerably smaller or larger in design than the previous version. It may have additional features built into design which makes the selling price higher than the previous version. So basically what I'm sort of getting at here is that the design of the product, if the product is designed in a better way than the previous version, so the next model up or the next release, if the design of the product is done in such a way to entice customers to buy because there's something better with the design than previously, then you could charge a higher selling price than you previously would do. This therefore would lead to added value, because added value is the difference between the manufacturing cost and the selling cost. So this would lead to, notice here what I'm doing is using almost connectives. Okay, so I've got my one way here, my one mark. I've got my for example, so I've tried to explain and given an example of a product, and then I'm sort of concluding by saying this would lead to the business this would lead to the business charging a higher price, which in turn would add value to the product. Okay. So adding value is generally about minimizing your costs and maximizing your selling price. Okay, so that would be my answer there. But what we can also do is look at the answer in the mark scheme. Hopefully, I'll just get that up for you. So here we go. So what I said, award 1 mark for identification of a method. So that's what I did. I identified design. You could have identified any of these methods here that I mentioned in pink. So you could have picked branding, quality, convenience, unique selling point, but I didn't. I picked design. And then a further 2 marks for explaining how the method would add value, up to a total of 3 marks. Okay, so over here you've got your mark scheme. So A01A is just your identification of the method, and then B is your explanation. So you get more marks for explaining what you mean. So here you go. One method is by having a unique selling point. So that's your 1 mark. It's 1 mark because it was on the list here. You could have picked unique selling point, 1 mark. Right, explanation. This will help the product to stand out against competitors by having something that they do not have. As a result, there's your connective there. As a result, okay, I think I can highlight that now. So as a result, I kind of did that here where I said this would lead to. So this would lead to, as a result, they're the same sort of connectives. As a result, customers will be willing to pay more for the product. And again, that's kind of what I said. This would lead to the business charging a higher price. Okay. There we go. You've also got another example. One method to add value is by having a distinct brand image. Notice again, back to the PowerPoint, that was on there under branding. Okay, so let's move on. So that's question 2. So question 3. Explain one way an entrepreneur might identify a new business idea. Okay. So really for this question, it's not so open-ended as the previous question, because in the previous question you could have picked any of the 5 examples. This one, I would say, there's probably only two answers, two routes you could have gone down here. So either an entrepreneur gets their business idea from looking at competitors and feeling they can do something better, or the other way to identify a new business idea could be that they've just done some market research and they feel there's a new gap in the market and they've established their idea that way. Okay, so if we have a quick look at the mark scheme just quite quickly. Here you go. Right, so the first point that I made was observing existing products. So what I said was they've had a look at what's already going on in the market. So they've had a look at something that already exists and they think they can make that item better or that service better. Or here, they've just got a completely original idea, something that they came to them by themselves and they've developed the idea that way. Okay. So my answer that I would do, because I'm just going to explain one way, so I'll just start with one way could be that the entrepreneur has used or been to, or has used a product or had a service and they feel they could adapt it in a different way to serve a similar market. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that the person, the entrepreneur, has seen something, been somewhere, experienced a particular product or service, but it's not quite perfect for them and they feel they can make an adjustment to offer something different, so a competitive advantage. Okay. This is called competitor analysis. So that's what it is called. It's called competitor analysis, just going in and seeing what's currently out there. Okay. The entrepreneur may believe they can add. Sorry. The entrepreneur may believe they can. Or make the entrepreneur may believe they can compete with Okay, all right. So let me read that through. One way could be that the entrepreneur has used a product or service and they feel they could adapt it in a different way to serve a similar market. This is called competitor analysis. Let me go back to the mark scheme. So observing existing products, this can lead to ideas, about how these might be improved. So the word was used improved there, and I've used the word adapted. So it's the same sort of thing, adapted or improved what's currently there. This is called competitor analysis. The entrepreneur may believe they can compete with what's currently being offered. They may have a USP. Oops. Sorry. As a result of these ideas, an entrepreneur can innovate an existing product. Okay, fine. Very similar to what I've said. Okay. The other answer, which is perfectly valid, is that the entrepreneur might have a completely different idea. This can lead to development of a totally new product that does not have any competition in the market. Okay, so one of two responses would be fine. Let's move on. Okay. So question 4. Obviously, this won't be able to read the text above there. Although with this question, because it's just a 2-mark question, you could probably do this from your own business knowledge. Okay. But I think the answer does need to be specific to the business, because the question is asking you about the particular business there. So outline one risk taken by the owners when starting Last Course Patisserie. So Last Course Patisserie is a small private limited company based in Devon, produces handmade desserts and puddings. Okay. So with any business, there is always a risk, no matter whether the business is, as it says here, small, private limited, or whether it is a bigger business, there's always a risk. Okay. This particular business produces desserts and puddings. So with this type of product, they've got a very short shelf life. So it's not like these items can be sitting around for weeks waiting to be sold. Because the desserts are made fresh to order as well, again, they need to be sort of sold as soon as they're made. Okay. So I would go for the answer of, let me just go back, small private limited company. So I would say the risk, or one risk, sorry, I've just got to do one risk. So one risk may be that the owners, I will put shareholders in brackets as well, because with this type of business, because it's private limited, shares can be sold to friends and family. So the owners of the business will be actually the shareholders. So one risk that the owners may face is the financial loss. Okay. So I'm going to talk about capital now. So just to make you aware, capital is usually, well, capital is the money that goes into the business to kickstart it, to get it off the ground. So capital will have to have been put into this business, and whatever amount's been put in obviously needs to be paid back out in terms of profit. So that's the route I'm going to go down. One risk may be that the owners, shareholders may face could be financial loss. Capital will have to be put into the business at the start, and the owners will want to make sure they make a profit in order to cover this investment, I'll put. Okay, so I've gone down the financial sort of risk route. Oops. Okay, so let's look at the mark scheme for this one. So, award up to 2 points for linked point. Sorry, award up to 2 marks for linked point outside outlining the suitable risks. Okay, so the owners risked a loss of security as they previously had jobs in the food industry. Okay, so that's going back to the text here. Where is it? Here it is. Its owners previously worked in the food industry. So basically, the point's talking about giving up a job in order to start a business and the risks that come with that if the business fails, so that's fine. The owners risked financial loss. So this is the point that I was making here. So the owners risked financial loss. What did I put? One risk maybe the owners of the shareholders may face could be financial loss. Great, okay. Then I've gone to explain it. Capital will have been put into the business to start. The owners want to ensure they make a profit. Okay. May not have been done. Okay, it's fine because you can have a linked point. And a linked point, as long as it's linked to your initial point, which mine was financial loss, then it would be fine. Okay. Notice here that with this type of business, because it's private limited, you would have limited liability. So marks would not be awarded for saying that they would lose their personal possessions, because that's not true with private limited. Okay, finally, last question. Right, so this is a big question. This is a 9-mark question. So in this question, you've got to justify. So for a justify question, what you have to do is give your own opinion, lots of business knowledge, and talk about which one of the options are going to be best suited. So my advice for this type of question would be decide, first of all, which option is going to be best for the company. Will it be option 1 or will it be option 2? Remember, there's no right or wrong answer here. So if you've said option 1 is the best and everybody else in the class has said option 2 is the best, that's not a problem, okay, because this is totally your choice. As long as you justify and you give reasons why you think option 1 would be the best, for example, and then you could also talk about why option 2 might be the best as well. As long as you do those things, then you should be able to get a good mark. So just give me a second here. All right. What I'm going to do for this last question, question 5, is I'm going to stop recording actually now, and I'm going to just put together my response for option 1 and option 2. I'll put together some answers, and then I'll do another recording with that on separately, okay, because it's going to take me quite a bit of time to go through to design an answer here. So if I just stop recording now, and then I'll do another one just going through that last question, because there was a few other things I want to show you as well. Okay, so let me stop recording now. Okay, thank you.